Hey, this is Tony Soprano, and you're listening to Jersey Boyz Podcast with your hosts, Dave Sturchio and the Ernst Boys. I mean, I could give a shit about the Cowboys. We're in New Jersey. These guys got balls being Cowboys fans in Jersey. Anyways, enjoy. Well, whatever.
How about this, Cowboys?
What's going on, Cowboys Nation? It's been a while, but the Jersey Boyz Podcast is 2/3 back. Dave Sturchio alongside nationally known comedian Bret Ernst. First and foremost, Bret, how you doing, bro? I feel like it's been a minute.
I'm good, man. I'm disappointed in the free agency market, what we did. I was telling
off to a hot start.
Yeah, well, I was telling my brother, the Grinch.
Yeah.
Every year we look good on paper. Every year, we have expectations. Now, even though we're bringing back kind of the same squad, CD's holding out, which you're going to have to explain that to me and Micah, right? We have renews coming up. I need you to explain the Dak thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not optimistic, and I think hopefully that'll be like the reversal, because usually if I'm optimistic, we end up not doing as well. And
so
when I'm not, we do.
So basically, you've been optimistic for the last 30 years.
We've talked on the podcast, and we know where my head's at. This season was really a disappointment, man. The more I look back and I think about it, and it wasn't Dak. He didn't play awful. He played good enough that we should have won against Green Bay, but our defense just shit the bed, man. And, and it sits with you. Here's the frustrating thing, Starchy, is you'll see a team like Kansas City win the Super Bowl. They're not that great. They weren't that great of a team. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I
watched the games.
Niners were kind of the better team, but we're in that category. Every year, we were like one of the winningest teams since 2020. I think I saw something where they put the top 10 and the Chiefs were number 1, but we were tied for 4th.
Yeah, the Cowboys have won 36 games in the last 3 years. Mike McCarthy has won 12 games 3 straight years in a row. And the MO right now is that we can't close the deal. We can't get past the hump, whether it be the wild card round with the 49ers and the Packers or the division round with the 49ers. The last 3 years have been, it's ended in absolute disappointment. Every year we put out a decent squad, I would say, just like you said, on paper, we're usually up there where we're like, okay, we might have a hole here or there, but we're kind of stacked. And coming back this year, free agency has always been quiet for the Cowboys. It's never I know there's fans out there that expect different things, but the Joneses are not going to change their colors. You know what I mean? They're the guys that are going to stand pat with the fact that things are addressed within the NFL draft. And we're coming back this week because it's NFL draft week, right? So are we optimistic that they can fill a lot of holes in the draft? I don't know right now.
I don't know if it's more what we didn't get as opposed to who we let go and how we let them go. I don't know why we would have got rid of Beatis if we couldn't, or Badass if we couldn't afford them. And, again, you're going to have to explain some things to me. But, since we started this podcast, I was always talking about Dak's contract, how, it's going to affect us if we don't win in a certain amount of time. Even though, because I know they didn't extend him, right? Explain the Dak thing to me.
So right now, this is the riskiest that the Cowboys have ever played the Dak card right now. And it's literally letting him play out his final year of his deal with void years after this. So he can walk into free agency next year and just say, hey, thanks for everything, Cowboys. It's been real. I'm going to go sign anywhere he wants. They've never been in a position like this before. They've always kind of either tagged him or extended him right before the season or gave him a new deal or, just a little bit of an extension. Right now, they're sitting tight with this massive cap hit. And, I was just watching something. Jane Slater had something with Jerry Jones. They just had a press conference today, pre-draft press conference on, the direction of where the team is, blah, blah, blah. And he says, Jerry's like, well, we're always working on stuff. There's so much stuff to work on with this team, man. Like it starts with Dak, because you can't do shit if he's clogging up the cap room. And look, yeah, you were Nostradamus a couple years ago. You said if they do this, it will bite them eventually. And now we're sitting here and we're getting bit over and over again.
But here's the thing with the salary cap just raised, I believe, right? Another 20-something million.
Yeah. So which was historic. Yeah.
You can't, and this is throughout the league. You can't build. You can't give one player, the market value when it doesn't make sense. Like, not all these quarterbacks deserve elite money. And just because one guy's doing something doesn't mean now that you're up, that you deserve that, even though that one person has like if Mahomes comes up and he made his money, that doesn't set the precedent for fucking Dak Prescott. I don't know and we talk about this. I don't know why these people, it's like the housing market, right? Like you get a couple of houses that sell at what they're worth. Then people are like, oh, okay, well, let's start moving here. Now, all of a sudden, they start conflating the market because it's like, oh, this is now a desirable area. Now, eventually, it's going to bust. It's just common sense. It's like pump and dump stocks. And, you can't, even the league in general, you either lift the cap, right? Or you got to regulate like the NBA did. Remember when the NBA went on strike, they started regulating what rookies can make, top ceiling.
Yeah, we thought that was going to happen. Yeah, we thought that was going to happen when they changed the draft structure. Do you remember when you were a first pick overall, you got like unlimited money? It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? Remember that shit? That was not too long ago.
That's why there were so many busts.
And that wasn't too long ago. So they had to make a change, and they did. Now, I don't know if they're going to change the salary cap. I just think that the Cowboys have put themselves in a position now to not be as effective in free agency, which if you look around the teams, like look around the league, right? And obviously the Chiefs, it's an anomaly because, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is the highest paid quarterback, but he also wins games by himself sometimes. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's all well and good. And that team has been very, very good to get themselves to the Super Bowl. But if you look at their opponent, San Francisco 49ers was riding with Mr. Irrelevant on the contract. So now all of a sudden they lose players because eventually you're going to have to pay the Debos of the world. And eventually they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. But like what I'm saying is, I say all that to say this, that the Cowboys put themselves in a position to do the right thing by Dak Prescott if they truly believe that Dak Prescott was the guy. For the first time in my fanhood of the Dallas Cowboys, since 2016 when Dak was drafted, I don't know if all the confidence is in Dak anymore. I don't know. Like if there was confidence that this guy can get us over the hump and get us the Super Bowl that we all are craving, I don't know if Jerry and Steven think that this guy can get us there. And that I'm not just talking about Dak Prescott. I'm talking about the fact that McCarthy is also on the last year of his contract. Mike Zimmer, our new defensive coordinator, a 1-year deal, right? So like all of a sudden it just feels different around the Cowboys right now because you look at the roster and you have to deal with CeeDee Lamb's contract. He's now holding, I don't want to call it a holdout yet because these are like voluntary workouts and shit and, just doing wind sprints. There's not much to it. But like when it comes down to it and people have to start reporting and then he wants a new contract, you're going to have to figure this out because right after Lamb is Micah Parsons, right? And Micah Parsons has been in the news of falling out of favor. I don't know if you've realized this, Brett, and this is a big deal to me because I'm starting to see how true it is. Des Bryant has put out there on record that as soon as you're ready to make some money with the Dallas Cowboys, all of a sudden a campaign is started within the organization that all of a sudden people are just kind of getting tired of the guy and maybe his attitude isn't right. And, like look at Dak. He had to deal with the civil suit, right? Still dealing with this bullshit case that he's dealing with. Now, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, Micah, people are starting to grow tired of Micah's on and off ability and podcasting and this, that, and the third. All these people are getting painted in this shitty light. And guess what? What's the common denominator? They're due money.
Here's the thing though. Was Dak in a lawsuit or did they make it up?
I mean, he's currently in one. They've
Okay.
shut it down
Okay,
in Texas. Okay.
Hold on. Was Dez running his mouth and acting crazy
Yes.
when all that? All right. Is Micah on podcasts talking out of turn? There's truth to it.
He was, yeah.
Okay, but I'm saying there's truth to both. It's not like they're just making it up out of the blue.
It just
right?
feels convenient. It just feels convenient.
Well,
timing.
You're not hearing it about CD Lamb right now.
No, you're not. But and he's made himself very, very inexpensive. Like, you cannot lose. He's one of the best receivers in football, if not the best receiver in football, just based off of last year alone. Right. So,
but here's what I'm saying. Okay. There is and don't I love Mike as well, and I'm actually not more of I'm more of a player's fan than I am the front office, sure. But you can't give them the smoke. I mean, because you don't see that around every player. I mean, that's just there are certain personalities that you're going to see that around. I mean, look, Dak is one of those guys that doesn't make a big deal, but there is the lawsuits going on.
Yeah, so and they've asked him about how do you feel about the quiet off season, and he said he was it was a puzzling thing, but he also said I'm here in Dallas. This is where I'm going to play this year. I'm going to give it my all, but next year we'll see. This is the first time we've ever gotten this version of Dak, and maybe look, I know I was changed when I became a dad. You know what I mean? Things do change. Your mentality changes a little bit when you're not the most important person in your household anymore. So maybe he's just look, you don't want me? That's fine. Somebody else will. You know what I mean? Somebody else will pay me top dollar to be their quarterback.
Like my brother said I don't know if it was this year or last year, and I'm the same way. I like Dak, but I'm a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. It's not like if Dak leaves, I'm going to that team. And They have to understand. I mean, it becomes the same mentality of just say the WNBA. Okay. When they sit there and then they're like, we deserve this, we deserve this, we deserve this. You're being subsidized by the NBA. You're making money because of something else's success. It's the same thing with any of these players, right? It's the same thing as an entertainer. It's not what you're worth. You should be getting what it's not what your value. What are you bringing? Like CD Lamb brings a lot. Okay. But the NFL is the reason why you're making this money. If there was no NFL, how would you be making your millions of dollars? You understand what I'm saying? Fair, so It doesn't mean that you should be taken advantage of. It means more, you need to understand that it's a symbiotic thing. And that's what I'm trying to say is that the team's success becomes your success. Now, if you think you deserve a lot of money and you want to go play for the Jets, what the fuck the Jets? Now it's a problem for the Jets because they got to pay one player all this money and say that, they're not winning. I mean, look what happened with Aaron Rodgers. The goal is to win games. The goal is to win the Super Bowl, right? I mean, isn't that the goal of a team in the championship?
Well, you start to wonder about the Cowboys. Is the goal to win the Super Bowl? Jerry and Steven will tell you that, but at the end of the day, you're all gonna. And I'm not talking for everybody, but everybody's gonna go to the games next year. Everybody's gonna buy the rookies jersey. Everybody's gonna buy. You know what I'm saying? There's so much more than football.
Can go away, man. It's just like the movie industry. The movie industry is dying. It was never. People don't understand. You're not bigger than football. The game. You're not bigger than it. I mean, look what college does. College makes fucking a shit ton of money. But these kids are still playing. And now with the NIL thing going on, you're going to start to see that you're getting players demanding money. You know what I'm saying? College kids, which in turn now they're going into these portals to get transfer portals. And now that's even hurting scholarships for these 18-year-old kids that were on the cusp. You know what I mean? Because if I'm a team and I can get a player that's played 2 years, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to giving a scholarship to an 18-year-old I don't know anything about. Everything starts to affect itself. Everybody needs to realize everything feeds itself. Okay. Now, again, it's not going to immediately affect the players now. but it will affect it 10, 20 years down the line. So if they're like, yo, I'm going to get mine right now, and they have that mentality, then, you know, it's not going to affect it in the near future. But a decade down the road, you're going to start to see it. And, you know, I don't know if I'm making sense here or if I'm articulating this correct, but there has to be something to either not moderate it, all right, to say, okay, if these guys want this ridiculous amount of money, then the NFL can't be capping everything. Now, and then what's going to happen is you're going to have other teams that can't afford players like the Dallas Cowboys can. And, you know, then you'll start to see, we'll probably lose the parity of it. But there has to be a checks and balance somewhere. Because to pay a middle linebacker $150 million like the Giants did, okay, it's insane to me. Now, I don't think that was a smart move because, you know, if you're looking for the immediate win, but now you got to think down the road. If you don't hit within the next 3-4 years, what are you going to do? How are you going to keep players signed?
You can't. You're not. And that's what the Cowboys have found themselves in a situation right now where, once again, free agency comes and goes. They made one move in order to pick up a guy that was cut. See, something I learned on Twitter via my boy.
Did I make sense anyway, Sturch? Did any of this make sense?
You did because you said all that, and I'll say this. There's a formula that the Cowboys are following right now that it's almost like a loophole, right? And I learned this from my buddy Landon on Twitter. And when somebody leaves in free agency, the NFL compensates you. Meaning Tyler Biadasz, Tyron Smith, these guys all left, right? They weren't cut. They just left in free agency. Their contract ran out. They signed elsewhere. The NFL says, okay, because of that, you're going to get a third-round pick, compensatory pick. You're going to get this. You're going to get this. So the NFL is rewarding you for losing these players in free agency. The Cowboys have figured it out where when you sign a free agent who was cut, you're not losing that comp pick. So that's why they signed Kendricks to be the middle linebacker. That's why they waited until April to sign Royce Freeman as your fourth running back. So it's like, I'm not going to call them penny pinchers by any stretch, but I will say is they know what the fuck they're doing. You know what I mean? Like they're not stupid. They're businessmen at the end of the day. But the problem is, and what people have started to grow tired of, is you're not getting things done in a timely manner. Meaning we're now 2 days, as we record this, 2 days away from the draft, and your three biggest guns on the team are potentially going to walk right out the door without anything else than a compensatory pick, and you just lose that guy. So it's like, what are we waiting on? I don't know. There's no more adjustments in salary. So it's like, what, you know, are we waiting for the salary cap to boost again? Like the Cowboys now have just enough room in their salary to get a haul of draft picks in here and figure it out. I don't know, man. I'll ask you a question. At this point right now, with the Cowboys' recent success, 12-5, 12-5, 12-5, bounced in the playoffs, heartbreaking losses, right? And just completely getting just the shit kicked out of them last year. If you're Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, whoever's running the damn checkbook, I'm not talking about cap alleviation at this point because there's already been, fuck it, you know, like who cares? The cap is the cap. Are you re-signing Dak Prescott to be the quarterback of this team until he retires, which means you would probably have to give him another 4 or 5 years?
No.
So you're going to let him play on this last year and say, thanks for everything?
Absolutely. Let him play. Okay. I would. I mean, we can't. What are we going to do unless he's willing to take a cut?
I mean, look, he's got on record said he doesn't need to be the highest paid quarterback. Neither did Tom Brady.
No, and he doesn't deserve to be. That's the thing. You don't deserve to be the highest paid quarterback. This is insane to me. Maybe it's because whatever I earn, I have to earn. In other words, my whole salary is based on how many tickets I can sell. And because I may be viewed as a better stand-up comedian than, say, someone else that's making more money than me, I still understand the fact that if they go into a 5,000 seater and sell out every night, then they deserve what they get. You can't be the highest paid quarterback and not have a ring in 7-8 years. That's insanity to me.
So I'm going to ask you that in regards to your field, right? You've been doing comedy for a long time. You're stand-up comedy and 27 years stand-up comedy, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say that there was a union, which there should be, I think, for all these people, like in stand-up rather. Let's just say at the end, let's just say you have a 30-year contract, right? And so you got 3 years left on your deal to just do whatever you can do. But at that 30-year mark, your agent or whoever's going to come up to you and say, hey, listen, what do you think you're worth? Because that's what we have to go back and tell the team that's what we want. And you haven't won a ring, let's just say. Like, you've done a million cool things, but like that, you haven't sold out the Garden. Only a couple people have in the history of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, so in order for you didn't sell out the Garden yet. So when it comes contract time, do you personally want to be the highest paid comedian out there?
I would say go get what you can get from me. I'm not mad at Dak and I'm not mad at his agents. I mean, I understand greed. I understand that, I want to be said. I understand these people that buy lottery tickets and think that people that are successful in life just fall into it. Right. All right. I get that, but I can't take it personally if they're like, no, he hasn't sold. I mean, everything's a meritocracy. Sports is the last bastion of a meritocracy, right? Because there's no equality in outcome.
Romo said it best. Yeah.
Huh?
I said Romo said that in his final speech. Football's a meritocracy, 100%.
Oh yeah. So it is, right? Like you're not looking at like the woke people coming into professional sports demanding that there's more Asian running backs and right. The best is the best, no matter whatever race or group dominates, whatever. Right. We're not arguing that because the best is the best in sports. That's the way it is. That's the way it needs to be. You understand what I mean? And that is where that's why it's so successful, because you're watching two people that the best are what they do. That's why boxing ended up fucking falling, is because you're watching a boxing match and then all of a sudden the better guy didn't win. You follow me? Because the cards, you're like, what fucking fight did they see?
Right.
I'm not saying it's fixed, but there was a lot of questions in boxing. Yeah. People tuned out. So, if you're watching and again, I've been around, I've been watching this sport over fucking 4 decades now, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing the quality of the product decline. It's declining.
And that's because you think that these guys they're paying people based off of market value and not skill.
Yeah. I mean, the balance, it's now off balance again, right? Like, when the owners controlled the league, the players were getting fucked. You know what I mean? Because they weren't getting what they were worth. And now it's overvalued. And it's not, I mean, you're going to have a winner in every game. You're going to have a champion in every game.
Sure.
But when you're looking at a team, like a very well-oiled team of, like when you had the Cowboys and the Niners, you're looking at two teams, or let's say Cowboys and Redskins, which was a big rivalry in the 80s. These guys played against each other. They knew each other. There were storylines here. You were seeing the same guys again and again, going up against each other, and the skills were always matched. It could have been anybody's game. Now we're just rooting for the emblems, right? We're not talking about the rivalry between, say, a Russ Grimm and a Randy White. Like, look at the pictures on our board. Staubach, Pearson, Aikman, Irvin. They're synonymous together. Dak, Dez Bryant and Romo. Now it's like, okay. Now we're just seeing 88s and Dak and CeeDee Lamb. I mean, there's no history there. There's no, and I think, eventually it's going to cost the league. And now you're seeing players that are now, and I'm not mad at the players. They got to get theirs, I guess. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
it's just off balance. It's not, there's no good teams.
I agree. And I am on the same page as you as far as saying like the quality of these teams in the said football games. It takes till like November to get somebody like red hot, in the beginning of the seasons, especially coming off a training camp where you can't hit nobody anymore. There's no more double sessions. You know what I mean? Like none of that shit exists anymore. And it shows the proof's in the tape, the proof's in the tape. We all seen it. So anyway, so they got to figure out that.
Now what it is it's like you're picking teams every season. You know what I mean? It's like two neighborhoods that are like, all right, well, we got these guys. Now we're going to pick new guys. We're always picking teams, and then we're going to play a game. And of course, you're going to have a winner. There has to be, Yeah. And just because a team goes 12-4 doesn't mean it's a good team. It means that they won 12 games in that season, if that makes sense. They were a better team that season.
And they were the better team that Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, so, and you can compile that. And that's when I look at the Cowboys, 3 straight 12-win seasons. I'm like, dude, this is a good team. It's a good team. But then at the end of the day, when you're looking at it, you're like, that Packer game, you're like, this is not a good defense. This is not a good team. Like, what are we watching here? So I wholeheartedly agree with pretty much everything you said.
And when you look at the Patriots, right? Like Tom Brady never was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
No.
Never.
And that's why
I don't
they
think
were able
one
to do what they
season,
did.
right?
I'm not sure. But I will say that Tom Brady is an enigma when it comes to the quarterback play in the NFL. Like, this is the greatest to ever do it. And you look at the Patriots post Tom Brady. Then when Cowboys Nation was up in arms saying, go get Bill Belichick, I'm like, have you guys seen Bill Belichick's record without Tom Brady? Like let's all pump the brakes on that.
Yeah,
shit.
But at the same time, Belichick, what happens with offenses and it's so funny. My buddy Alex Monaco, I don't know if you remember
Money Monaco.
Yeah,
My man is live and in color at the Garden every single night. It's awesome.
Yeah, he's killing it. We were on a phone call, and then we were looking at the coaching trees, right? Of like, say, Bill Walsh, Tom Landry, Chuck Noll. Now, when you're looking at the coaching trees, once you start getting to the modern era of football, you're not really seeing the coaching trees anymore because nothing is innovative. There's no more. I'm not saying everything has been invented, but when you're looking at Landry and the flex defense, and then bringing back the shotgun and being just being an innovator in football and plays, you're not really seeing that. You're not seeing that anymore.
I think the last
coaching trees. Go ahead.
The last good coaching tree is probably Mike Shanahan in Washington, because he gave us Kyle, he gave us McVay, he gave us the cat out in Cincinnati. He gave us the guy over there in San Diego. So like it's not as frequent as what it used to be. And it's not Parcells, and it's not Landry, and it's not these guys that have these branch off trees that have made so significant waves. So yeah, I agree with you there.
Well, think about this. The two most fucking winning the Super Bowls in the past 10 years are two old guys.
That's very true.
It's Andy Reid and Belichick.
Yeah.
So where's the innovation coming? And now it just seems it's more manipulating. It's saying, okay, well, here's a version. Let's manipulate the West Coast offense. Where I was talking to a buddy of mine about this, that's very familiar with professional sports, and he said a lot of times now it's like with the defensive backs and the corners, it's almost like basketball where like you have to be put in a position where if they bump you, it's a penalty. You follow me? Like it's more like putting the ball where
right place, right time.
Yeah. Like, in other words, because if they hit you, it could be a penalty. Now we've got these the quarter tackle where like they can't pull you down.
Well, it started with the horse collar, and now it's evolved. So now you can't do the hip drop tackle anymore.
Yeah,
so
that's basically
like,
what the fuck is that?
Well, it's what broke Tony Pollard's ankle is what it was. Yeah. So it's
I'm saying, it's still a tackle.
I agree. Listen, you don't got to tell me, man. I learned one way how to tackle somebody, right? So it's like you do whatever it takes to get them to the ground, right? But now we're in a whole nother world where you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. Why? Why is that?
if you're trying to tackle somebody from behind, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, now you're not going to be able to tackle that guy from behind.
So if he gets past you, you can't tackle him? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying?
Of course, the NFL wants points. That's fantasy football is the biggest, most lucrative thing in the history of things. They want more points. They want more high-octane offenses. Can't have that if the guys are able to stop them. So I feel bad for defenders. I feel bad for you and your brother. You guys would never survive in this
I couldn't have played in today's rules anyways.
No way. Nobody can, really. Like, think about it. Like, it's just a whole nother, you're looking for that big hit. And instead of wrapping up and tackling, I'm going to go off on a tangent, but it is what it is. But look.
Let's get to the draft.
Yeah, so the NFL draft is this Thursday. You're probably watching this on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday leading up. The Dallas Cowboys have the 24th pick in the draft. This is also a draft where I feel like they have not as many picks as they normally do. But, based off of the credible mock drafts that I've seen, I'm talking Patrick Walker of DallasCowboys.com. I'm talking about a couple guys on NFL.com that I follow. It seems to me.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I'll ask you questions because I'm still, I have no idea what we're looking at. So go ahead, finish what you're going to say. And then
I'm just saying the mock drafts that I've looked at, it does have the Cowboys, lined up in a certain way, right? So like there's a consensus. I even put a poll up on my Twitter. I got a couple hundred votes and like 81% went one way. So it's like there's a very big consensus right now within the Dallas Cowboys draft room as to where we might go. Now, again, do they make a splash? Is there any trades? Like there's a lot of intangibles, but yeah, go ahead. Ask your questions. I'll answer. Listen, I'm going to also preface this by saying I'm not the draft experts. There are a lot of draft experts on Twitter. Yeah, I love each and every one of them. They're great.
I'm not
the draft. The draft to me is an absolute crapshoot. I know when these guys are like, they do these mock drafts. It's like, you see who I got in the 6th? And I'm like, do you even know who the fuck that guy is in the 6th? Like, let's not pretend that the backup guard for Oregon and be like, this guy's going to be a stud. Like, it's all a crapshoot. Nobody really knows anything outside of the first 2-3 rounds. And then it's like, let's just throw some darts and see what we can land. So that's the truth.
I forgot to bring this up, and then we'll get to this because it'll lead into it. And I know I've been rambling.
It's been a while since we were able to talk ball. So I've
been sitting. Trey Lance is. Now look, do we look at him as the future?
No,
because he's only 23 years old, and at the same time, he beat out Brock Purdy and what's his name, Janine Garoppolo at quarterback. While he was a young, before he got hurt.
2 years ago,
is he a legit prospect? What do people say in the Cowboys camp?
So apparently John Lynch, who is the one who traded him away, said that his best days are still in front of him. And that was a recent quote. You know what I mean? Like he thinks Trey Lance is a star in this league. And are the Cowboys sitting on one? I hate thinking like that because it's just like, oh, I can't believe this guy's been riding the bench and he's been this good all this time. Like you're not like anybody who has this rhetoric or this mindset, like Trey Lance could be the replacement or the successor to Dak Prescott. That's fine. Successor, meaning when Dak rides off into the sunset and Trey Lance is 25, 26, I'm all for it. But right now, no, Trey Lance is not the answer. He's not the guy. He's
I was thinking more in a development situation, not to take over right away. I mean, that would be stupid.
And look, I from what people have told me and what I've read, kid is good. He's got a live arm. He can move. He's a mobile guy. He can, if I had to look at him and compare him to somebody, I would say like peak, and not to bring him up, but Kaepernick, you know what I mean? A big arm who can move and like, that kind of caliber player. So is he going to be good in this league? I have no idea, but that's the thing. Just like every other guy that's about to get drafted on Thursday night, nobody actually has a fucking clue. You know what I mean?
So what, let's go over this then. What are we picking at? What,
24.
So we're 24. How many do we have our first round pick?
Yes.
Okay. And how many third round picks do we get? Because of how many second round and third round picks?
So right now, I'm not sure how many, whatchamacall, I'll look right now to see what they have here. 1 day ago. So they have officially round 1, round 2, round 3, round 5, 6, 7, 7. That's what they have right now. So they only have 7 picks, but we do not have a 4th round pick. So those compensatory picks are next year, Brett. So we lost those guys at free agency this year. Next year, we're going to load up with some 3rd rounders, 4th rounders. But this year, they're a little scarce. There's no 4th round picks. It's a back end 3rd round pick. And they got a lot of holes. You know, according to Patrick Walker, again, one of my favorite writers that's going right now, Patrick Walker says that the needs are as follows: offensive tackle, center, linebacker, running back, defensive tackle, wide receiver, corner. So again, there's a lot of needs on a team that only has 7 fucking picks. Right. And a lot of them are in the back end.
So first round, again, Dallas is very known. We're known for picking offensive linemen and being very successful, by the way. Do you go with an offensive lineman? Because I think us losing our center was huge. I think it's bigger than most people think. I know we got what's his name as a backup that played pretty decent. Josh, what's his name? What's our backup?
Well, they got Ball, they got Hoffman, they got Brock Hoffman. They got a couple guys.
Hoffman is who I'm thinking of.
They got a couple guys that are very equipped and can make noise if given the chance. But based off of all the mocks, based off of everything that they need, based off the poll that I put out there, for 80+% of the voters said you have to address the offensive line with your first pick.
All right, so I agree. I agree with that.
And while that's not sexy, right? It's not like, oh yeah, we got this new flashy new toy like a CeeDee Lamb fell to us a couple years back. Like, now it's time to build within. And you say it, your brother says it, the old school mentality. These games are won up front. Offensive line, defensive line. Without those things, nothing else goes. So you offensive line is 100%.
You see this too, where like a lot of the teams, like right now, like, you know, 2 of the highest played pass rushers are from Broward County. How you doing? You know, the one the Giants paid, and then you got what's his name? Bosa. You know, these edge rushers are becoming more of a factor than they used to be. So, you know, getting a good tackle and in the trenches is I think official. I agree. I mean, you know, we have to address the offensive line because we don't have good depth in our O-line. Now, who do they have on the board that we would get? I'm hoping to tackle.
So according to Patrick Walker thinks that the Cowboys are going to go from 24 and trade back to 31, meaning the Niners are going to move up to get somebody. And at pick 31 instead of 24, Jackson Powers Johnson. He's a center out of Oregon. He is a Remington Trophy winner, unanimous All-American, first team All Pac-12. Dude is a fucking beast. I've done my research on that. And
what's
his name is Jackson Powers Johnson. Just sounds like an offensive lineman, you know? So that's who they have in round 1 for Patrick Walker. And then if you look at the 7-round mock draft that they have over on NFL.com, which again, this is a lot of analytics. So here's a different swing where offensive line for me is the play. I think that's absolutely the play. Brett, you know what position on the other side of the ball where we
linebacker. So listen, that's right. That's what I was going to say. If we have a linebacker that's a stud that's available, a middle linebacker. Now, if we're going to take a center, which, you know, if it's almost like if there are a couple
guys, I just want to preface, there are a couple guys that are 5 position players that we might want to invest in at 24, meaning like, yeah, they're a tackle, but the guy's played right guard, left guard, center, right tackle. Right. He's played them all in college. That's who I would rather have than a one-dimensional, I play center, that's where I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I agree. I think some type of diversity at the O-line because, look, if we only have 7 picks and, you know, traditionally you can find a good O-lineman or a good D-lineman out of a smaller school in a later round pick. Look at Larry Allen. I mean, you know what I mean? From Sonoma State. I mean, you know, you could find bigger guys that have played in the trenches. That's the question. So if we're not going to get an elite tackle, say, which I think would precedent and there's a linebacker stud that's available, I would take the linebacker stud.
So, yeah, pick 24, according to the 7-round mock draft on NFL.com, Junior Colson, which is a linebacker. He's a junior out of Michigan. He played last year with a broken hand, but he is a 3-down linebacker, and he would be a Swiss Army knife type of linebacker that can play fucking linebacker, not take a safety and make him a hybrid. Like, this dude is a linebacker.
That's what we need.
I think that's what Mike Zimmer is going to also instill, because right away through the waiver wire, I guess you can call it a waiver wire, but through the tea leaves, Marquise Bell has officially moved back to safety where he belongs. You know what I mean? So we were undersized with a lot of these guys last year, and it was painful to watch them try to fill gaps when it was just not their thing. So I'm on that team as well. If it's not if you don't have the chance to grab the best versatile offensive lineman in the first round, I say you flip the script, you get yourself a stud linebacker and somebody that can stop the run, somebody that can just make plays from the outside, because that was one of the biggest problems last year. And pretty much the entire season was linebacker play.
Listen, and I would say this, okay, with hopefully Overshown is 100%, because you know how much I love that kid. And if we re-sign Micah, which I can't see us not, I mean, we got Parsons. We need somebody solid in the middle, and our secondary is still top notch. Even though we just didn't we lose the guy from the Colts that we got?
Yeah, we did not re-sign Gilmore. That's still a possibility, but
oh god, I love that guy.
Yeah, me too. But again, you're getting Trayvon Diggs back to pair him with Deron Bland, so that's cool. You know what I mean? Like we have two. It's still a need, I think, in this draft class to address cornerback. We've swung and missed on a couple of these guys. One of them being like Boss Man Fat. You know what I mean? Like we tried to draft all these guys. This guy's a half rapper, half the cornerback, and he just sucked. So, and again, no disrespect.
Here's where our biggest problems are. Obviously, on the defense, in the center, say between our defensive tackle, plug in those gaps, and your middle linebacker. And then on the outside of our offensive line, and we need somebody to protect Dak, because the interior, man, is much. I don't want to downplay it, but it's a lot easier to play than those outside tackles. And those edge guys are getting better and better as everything's progressing. In my years of watching football, I've never seen the edge rusher and the tight end become the biggest key players.
Brock Bowers, look, a tight end might be a top 10 draft pick this year. Tight end, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, they've evolved for sure.
Well,
so
it's a style of defense that people are playing in the offense, where everything's spread out, and those tight ends become such an integral part of the check down system, where they're there. I mean, that's why they're so integral in these new type of offenses, these spread offenses.
No, I agree.
First pick, I like the idea of an interior center, but I think you can compensate that more with what we have. But there's no outside tackles available that they're predicting.
There are tackles available, and they're very good tackles available. It's just a matter of, they're saying there's like 20 blue chip players in the first round that are just, you can't miss them. You got to draft them. You know what I mean? So when you're looking at offensive tackle, J.C. Latham is projected to go to the New York Jets at 10. Then you look at this is the guy I kind of looked at. He's right now he's projected to go to the Saints, but Talisa Fauga, a big, just Hawaiian Samoan looking, just a monster of a man. There are good guys that I don't see them being there. So that's why if they're not there, you got to go linebacker. Like if look, it's all about the Cowboys draft strategy. So if they have a ranking of 10 offensive linemen and all 10 are gone, don't go to your 11th, despite the fact that you have a linebacker now up here on your draft board. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't sacrifice what you could get in the first round just because that's a need. Don't go fishing for that. At 24, to me, 24 seems like you can grab the best player available. I understand. I don't like when you draft for need, because then you can miss. If you just have a ranking of 32 guys that the Cowboys are saying these are all first round grades, 32 of them. And you get to your pick and it's the 24th guy is there, or even maybe let's just say your 18th player is there, but he just so happens to be a corner. Go fucking grab him. Like just go get the best player available. I always believe in that because again, if you start saying like, oh, but we need a tackle, and it's like the best tackles in the world are gone, but that guy you have a second round grade is there in the first. Don't go reaching for a tackle just because.
No, I agree with that. But I'm saying if it's between a need, say an above average player for a need and the best player at, say, we don't need at a position, then you got to go for the above average, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because even if you're going for the best player, it's still a bust. It could still be a bust. I mean, it's all of this is a gamble.
Yeah. No, I know. Now, the biggest thing, again, we're not going to go 7 rounds worth of mock drafting or anything like that. But the big question is, we know that the Cowboys like to make a splash. We know we missed out on a Derrick Henry. We let Tony Pollard walk to Tennessee. There is not a running back on the roster right now that I'm confident that could be the bell cow. Did we see flashes out of Rico? Absolutely. Have we seen flashes out of Malik? Sure. I don't think they know what the hell they're doing with Deuce Vaughn. Then you go sign Royce Freeman, another bruiser, bowling ball type guy. He's like, to me, he's like our last year's Rojo, right? Ronald Jones, who didn't fucking see he didn't see any plays. He got cut before the season started. So how early do the Cowboys dip into the running back market in the draft? Now, I've seen some off the wall 24th pick running back, which makes people go nuts. Or do you wait in the second round? Because what we've seen over the last couple of years, specifically the last couple of years in the running back department, the running back's first round is the second round. Nobody's going to go reaching for a running back anymore. And there's a lot of them. And in the 7th round mock draft that I'm looking at right now, the Cowboys go get their guy. And just, again, based off of the film I've watched of him, based off of the caliber college he comes from, it's almost a slam dunk for the Cowboys to dip into the running back department and go Jonathan Brooks out of Texas. I think the kid is a 3-down back. I think that he's definitely somebody that you could spill in there with a Rico Dowdle, with a Malik Davis. Maybe you have that 3-headed monster. I don't know which way they go, but I do think the Cowboys should dip into the running back department as early and as high as the second round. What do you think?
I'll go if taking again what we were talking about. If there's not a linebacker or an O lineman available that is, off the board, I meant like upper echelon, I would take a running back in the first round.
They might crucify for that.
I would absolutely. I mean, dude, those are hard to find, hard to come by.
Well, that but then for everybody saying it's hard to find, will raise you Isaiah Pacheco, who was found in the 7th round and could be the most aggressive runner we've ever seen play.
Okay, but it's few and far between, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's if you can watch, look, and again, it's a different game they're playing, but there's very few players that at skill positions, right, that you see in college that are just exceptional. Don't come to the league and just shit the bed. You don't. You've seen it very rarely. Like in other words, when AP was in college, when Emmett was in college, when Barry was in college, you were seeing that. You're like, okay, they got some skills. Like when you see a skill position, even CD, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's more of a indicator. I'm not saying it's 100%, but you've got a better shot of a skill position, in my opinion, that is blowing it up in college that can make a splash in the NFL. It's a better indicator. I'm not saying there hasn't been busts in the past, but when Tony Dorsett won the Heisman, and you kind of knew he would be making some noise.
Yeah, and I think there are a plethora of running backs that can make noise within this draft, and I think that, to me, 2nd round is where you zero in and you get a guy that can change the game. Right now. I was just going on what you were saying though. I know.
Like, if there's a running back that's high on the board and he's available in the 1st round, and there's not, a linebacker or an O lineman on need, why I would take that. And just for the record, you have seen quarterbacks bust, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because the offensive schemes, some of them couldn't grasp, their timing was off. I mean, but again, when you're looking at receivers and running backs, it's a pretty good indicator. So you already answered the question. So you're saying you still go with the O lineman, a above average O lineman in the first round, or an above average linebacker over a higher ranked running back. You would take.
Yeah, because I mean, like just like you said, like or we've all said, and any football fan will know, the running back is sometimes only as good as his offensive line. So if we're losing guys on the offensive line, we need to replace those guys with big dudes. So in the second round, when we do find that splash running back that falls in our lap, which it could happen, then it makes more of a case. Like, okay, we drafted the tackle, and now we drafted the running back who's going to be paving the way for this said running back.
Well, I should have prefaced this by saying I think running back is in need right now.
Oh, it's absolute. To me, I think it's an absolute need.
I don't know if Nico and Malik, if they can, and again, they played okay. Pollard was the main guy. Now that he's gone, I mean, I still think we should have picked Zeke up for little money.
I mean, he's still out there. So
I wouldn't mind Zeke again, man. I mean,
if they're looking for that, I have not seen the contract details yet for Royce Freeman. I don't know if they're going to release that. I haven't seen it yet, but how you pick the Royce Freeman over a Zeke is troubling to me. Meaning, like, they might actually think that Zeke doesn't have anything left. I don't know.
Or there's stuff that we don't know.
That's fair.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah, of course. They're always going to do their due diligence on all these players, and it is what it is. Do they want a guy that's squeaky clean? Like, nobody's heard any bad things had about Royce Freeman. Within the rookie year, 2 years into the league, Zeke's suspended. You know what I mean? So Royce Freeman, you never heard anything about him, so he's the safe bet. Or is he just somebody to bang around during the practice squad and say, like, okay, now it's time for Rico to get going? But I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting. This draft is going to play out. Obviously, receiver might also be something you want to talk about down the line in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, because again, you lost Michael Gallup. You still have CeeDee Lamb. You still have the emergence of a Jalen Tolbert. You still have Brandon Cooks. These guys are going to be, they're primo guys that we saw what they could do last year. Gallup was basically a non-factor. He was on the field, so you had to account for him, but his stats and his stuff that didn't drive anybody home, which is why it was an easier decision for him to just, kind of tail it out of town. But it'll be interesting, man.
Again, I consider a linebacker a skill position. Okay.
I do too.
Running backs and receivers, those are really hard to snag in the later rounds than they are. Then again, you get guys in the trenches. You can find a gem. You're more likely to find a gem in the later rounds in the O line and in the D line interior than you are a running back or a receiver or a linebacker. I mean, look, if I had my first pick, if there ain't a great offensive tackle, I'm taking a linebacker over a center.
I'm in that mentality too. It's just like it's unfortunate because you just got to kind of let it play out, and like see what's available, what doesn't fall to you, what might fall to you. To me, like I said, if I'm anything past 20, I'm best player available, bar none. You know what I mean? Like, I just think whoever the Cowboys are coveting at that position that's who you go get. You don't fuck around. Don't mess around with, like, I wonder if this guy's going to pan it. Like, just go get the best guy available. Just go get the best guy available. And that's what you can do when you're the 24th pick in the draft. If you're the 10th, 15th, then you address like the absolute needs of your team. But now knowing, like, I expect my prediction of this draft is that we see a little bit more aggression on the trade market. I think that they will package certain things to get more draft capital, because I think that this Cowboys team, if they are built through the draft like they usually always are, they need more than just the 7 picks. They really do. Or they need to move up a little bit, get themselves a 4th rounder, package 2 7s and a 6 next year or some shit to get into the 4th round. And I think they'll do that. I think they have to do that for me to be at least confident after the weekend's over and saying, like, all right, this is not a bad draft haul, because They moved up in the fourth to get this guy. They moved up a little bit in the third to get this guy. You know what I mean? Like, it all depends how aggressive the Cowboys could be on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So,
well, again, I just if there's not a tackle, I can't see us taking a center. If there's a great linebacker available. Now, if there's no linebacker available, no tackle available, and you got a running back in a center, I would still go with the running back. I'm dead serious.
I mean, like I said, I think you're probably in the minority of the analytical people out there. They're like, oh, you got to go get this guy. You got to go get that guy. But listen, sometimes, look, we had a Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup on our roster as our 1-2, and CeeDee Lamb fell to us at 17. We didn't need a receiver at the time, but the Cowboys said, well, wait a minute. This is the best receiver on the draft. He's here on our draft board. Let's go get this guy. Right. And then all of a sudden the rest is history. But I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting.
Man. What is, before we go, what's going on with CD? I mean, he's
just, I think that deal gets done.
We still have him for this season, don't we? Or
yeah. No, he's holding out for a new deal. He's doing one of these, like, not going to play. He's got like, what did he draft him in 2020 or 20? So he's got a 5th-year option. Like, all that shit's taken care of. We're not losing CeeDee Lamb. I just know that CeeDee Lamb's going to do what receivers do. And that's, hey, I need, like, Jamar Chase is over there and Justin Jefferson's over here. And this guy over here is getting money. It's time to get mines. So that's where CeeDee Lamb is. He'll probably hold out until he gets a new deal. I think the order of operations for the Cowboys is going to be, believe it or not, I do think a deal does get done with Dak. I really do think they bring him back for the remainder of his career. Spread it out so you have some money to play with. Then you backload a CeeDee Lamb contract. You get that long-term thing done. Then you take care of Micah Parsons. You just took care of Trayvon Diggs. There's a lot of heavy hitters. And look, if you think about it, all of these guys were drafted by the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
So that's why I think there's
and they're
confidence.
all still young and
and I think there wasn't, none of these guys were brought in as free agents to help the team. They were scouted, they were brought in for visits, and they were drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. These are homegrown players. They're not using free agency as a weapon like every other team in the league does. So they just really need to fucking knock it out the park this week for me to be. I'm not going into the season with the whole little Sturch, like, this is it. Gonna be our year. I can't. And I don't think any Cowboy fan, any right-minded Cowboy fan could do that because of the fact that you just know that the teams around you are getting better. Eagles, Saquon. Giants will probably get themselves a quarterback. The Washington Commanders are going to get themselves a quarterback. They now have Dan Campbell. They have Dan Quinn as their coach. He brought half the fucking Cowboys roster with him. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's going to be, the division's going to be tougher. We're not running away with anything. So if they want to run with these guys and they want to run with the upper echelon of NFC teams, they got to crush the draft. So
that's the other thing that sucks too with Quinn. I mean, he knows our weaknesses on our offense. I mean, it's going to be.
Yeah, well, I also look at Quinn and be like, I also remember his last game with the Cowboys. It was the worst.
But what I'm saying is, he knows our offense, bro. He knows our offense in and out.
Maybe Mike McCarthy's got a couple more wrinkles in the Texas coast. We'll see how that plays out. But
I'll tell you though, I'm okay with Dak as long as it's not going to cripple us, man. And that's just ridiculous to me. I mean. He can't be demanding that he doesn't want to be the highest paid. All right, let me ask you this. Is he top 5 paid?
Yeah, because I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. That's my thing now with him. He's an all-pro. You don't win all-pro by accident. You're not, this isn't the Pro Bowl where it's a popularity contest. We're talking all-pro quarterbacks.
Right.
I would say that he's up there. He was always floating in that top 10 conversation, but after last year, I'll bump him past plenty of guys that people said were he was better than.
I think he's top 10. He's not top 5.
Well, like I said, we can debate that back and forth.
I don't care about all pro either. I mean, that's all stats, right?
Well, it's a chosen thing. It's a chosen thing by committee. It's not like you go online and vote now to get your guy in the Pro Bowl. Like, it ain't that, But I'm just saying, like, all pros don't happen by accident. They don't grow on trees, and that's why I think you got to get the deal done. And at the end of the day, I think the Cowboys will take care of theirs.
But again, when you're looking at a season versus he had an all-pro season.
Sure. Is he an all-pro quarterback is what you're saying. Yeah. That's if he can run it back and do the same shit he just did last year, then yeah, he's an all-pro quarterback, and we're seeing the best of Dak Prescott, and maybe it took him a little longer than a lot of these other guys, right? But like, to be honest with you, man, there was a million people that are out there saying, I would definitely take Justin Herbert. I no longer would take Justin Herbert over Dak Prescott. I just wouldn't. I'm just saying, it just in general, I'm just age. I don't give a shit. I'm taking Dak, right? Like, there's a lot of guys that people are just like, oh man, Tua. No, fuck that. No, Dak Prescott's better. Huh?
Here's what I would do. I like that we're going to do this one season with him. All right. We're not extending yet because he needs to prove that this wasn't a fluke. Number one. Number two, if we're going to extend, then he's going to concede and say, look, I can't be the highest paid. I can't even, I can't cripple this team because, you know, if we're looking into the future, we have some holes to fill, and we don't know what this next season is, you know, obviously going to bring, right? Because, you know, the way we ended was just awful. We got a new defensive coordinator. It's almost like we're starting fresh all over again.
Some people have called this a rebuild without rebuilding. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like this is
that's how I feel it is.
It's a weird feeling right now to be a Cowboys fan because you truly don't know what's going to happen because you need these dominoes to fall. And you can't even judge the team until these dominoes fall. You can't wonder about, hey, when we get this guy in the draft, he'll be good in 2 years, but who's our quarterback going to be? We don't know. You know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of shit that you need to figure out. And if he's not the guy, I love Dak as a person, as a player. I think the guy is all world. He's my favorite Cowboy right now. If he's no longer a Dallas Cowboy next year, then they better have a fucking plan because quarterbacks like that don't just come out of nowhere. You're either going to have to tank the complete. I'm not saying tank the season. I'm saying just have an abysmal year where you go like 5-12 and you're like, what the fuck happened? But all of a sudden you're in the top 5 of the draft and you're like, oh, well, now.
Well, we're in purgatory. Yeah. I feel like the Cowboys are in purgatory right now.
That's what it seems like. Yeah, it seems like that.
Nothing worse than being. I mean, look, we're an above average team.
We 100%.
We just shit the bed again.
Like I said, and I told everybody, you don't win 12 games 3 years in a row by accident. You just don't. You're a better team than a lot of the teams that you played. And don't just miss me with all the like, well, this team was under 500. Like, no, man, just go out there and win some fucking football games. And that's what they've done. But then you get to the playoffs and it becomes just I don't know. It's like a roadblock. They just see it. They're like, whoa, we're done. We're done here. You know, like it's alarming. But
I mean, look, yeah, for us to lose to Green Bay the way we did, it's not a good indication of our team.
No, it's not. And unfortunately, it's a what have you done for me lately type league. Nobody gives a shit what they did the week prior, right? When they, you know, had to get a win here and had to get a win here and beat Detroit on an improbable thing and all this other shit. Nobody thinks about that. They all think about the last game you played and the last game the Cowboys and the last time the Cowboys were on the field, they got run out of their own stadium. So
you know what, Sturch, though, you're really seeing this with a lot of teams, though. That's what I was talking about earlier, is about the quality of the league now and you know, the parity going on. But it always ends up either the Patriots or the Chiefs.
Well, not so much the Patriots anymore, but yeah, the Chiefs.
4 years ago. I mean, that wasn't that long. Right?
Brady. Yeah, it was Brady's last year. But no, even like Brady. No, it was longer than that, but
yeah, it was. I'm thinking it was Tampa.
Yeah, it was Tampa. He won it with Tampa, though. He won it with Tampa, so it's like you lose track of all this shit.
But would it be worse to be the Niners? I mean, think about that, man.
Listen, the Niners have lost a lot of pieces. They know where they're at right now when it comes to like, okay, is Brock Purdy the guy? That's awesome. If he's the guy, guess what? that piece of shit is going to be making $55 million a year at some point.
How could you call him a piece of shit when he went to the Super Bowl?
Because I'm the Cowboys fan. That's why. He's a piece of shit.
But I mean, for real.
Listen. No, you can't say nothing wrong about him. The guy was literally the last pick in the draft. Great story. Comes out, laces the ball, has a fantastic season. And look, the talent around him is superb. But guess what? That shit's not going to last either. Eventually, McCaffrey's going to need a new deal. Eventually, Debo's going to need a new deal. George Kittle, offensive line, Bosa, corners, safeties, everybody. It ain't going to work out once they got to pay Mr. Purdy. So I know how this is all going to go. I'm not sounding like a bitter fan. They got to the Super Bowl. We didn't, whatever. But second place is
and the NFC Championship game. We didn't.
Whatever, man. I'm over it. Miss me with all. I'm over it. It's a new season.
I'm the furthest thing from a 9. I'm just saying, would it be worse to be that? Would it be worse to go to?
No, of course not. I just want to get there.
I would see again. I think we talked about this in the last podcast. I would rather not go at all than lose like they did. That would drive me absolutely insane.
Yeah. I mean, now that I look back, would I rather miss the playoffs than get the shit throttled out of us? Probably, but that's what happens, man. At the end of the day, like you look at the Cowboys, like, yeah, man, look at that. We got the fucking 2 seed. Ain't nobody gonna stop us now. And it's like, oh, by the way, Jordan Love would like a conversation. It's like, what the fuck? What,
dude? What I'm saying though is like, I would rather fucking. Would you rather be known as just a team that sucks or a team that chokes?
Or I would rather be the fucking Jets at this point, where every year they just think this could very well be the best team we ever put on paper, and then fucking Aaron Rodgers falls off the bench and you completely lose your season, and you're like, we'll just play with them. We'll play with some house money, see if we can win some games.
So does it hurts more?
But I guess I'm telling you right now, if Dak Prescott is not the quarterback of the Cowboys, we are headed down that path to the point where we're like, I don't know. I guess we'll just see how many games we can win this year, next year, the year after that.
This season's going to tell you exactly what Dak is.
Well, I'm not getting any fucking younger, so let's get another Super Bowl before I lose my mind. So, with that being said, we have the NFL draft coming up on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Let's see if they knock it out of the park. The Cowboys have historically done very, very well in the draft. We shall see how it plays out. Me and Bret are on the same page as far as, hey, let's get ourselves a tackle, maybe a good linebacker, maybe a running back. If that happens, the world might implode. But for Dave Sturchio, Bret Ernst, this has been another return episode of the Jersey Boyz Podcast. We'll analyze all these picks and get the Grinch back up in here and see if he likes any of these picks. And let's see if we get another highlight reel tape sent to us by the Grinch on draft day. Like, let's go get this guy. It turned out to be Deuce Vaughn. So let's find out if the Grinch has any more tricks up his sleeve.
I think he's been doing his due diligence. He's playing possum. Because the Grinch studies film. He does everything.
Oh, he's a lunatic.
We need the Grinch right now.
Yeah,
I suck. I'm just so. I mean, I got 15 years on you of just getting kicked and beat. I can't with this team, man.
Yeah, well, nobody can.
I'm over it. I mean, I can't. I still can't believe I've been doing comedy longer than they've made it to an NFC Championship game.
And you've been doing comedy for a long fucking time.
Almost 30 years.
That fucking roller skating video came out when I was in high school.
It's fucking insane. I've been doing the same act longer. And they haven't even been to the Super Bowl. That's absurd.
It is absurd. And
I don't think it's getting better, Sturchie. I really don't, man. I hate to say it.
Well, we're about to find out real quick. This is the beginning of the new season. Starts with the draft. We'll see you guys next time.
Hey, this is Tony Soprano, and you're listening to Jersey Boyz Podcast with your hosts, Dave Sturchio and the Ernst Boys. I mean, I could give a shit about the Cowboys. We're in New Jersey. These guys got balls being Cowboys fans in Jersey. Anyways, enjoy. Or whatever.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!